Hello again, boxing fans, and welcome to the year of 2023. Happy New Year. Welcome to another episode of the Neutral Corner Boxing Podcast. This is episode 343 to be exact. I am your host, Michael Montero. This is the first episode of the new year. Hope you guys had a great holidays and all that good stuff, and you're ready to talk some boxing. Hope you're ready for another great year of the show. As always, I remind you, please make sure that you're subscribed here on my YouTube channel and all of my social media. You can find it, my handles, Montero on Boxing. Easy to find, easy to follow, subscribe. And I ask you guys to pay the fee, right? I ask all the time, pay the fee. What is the fee? There's no monetary fee here. All we ask is that you spread the word about the show. We build this show in my entire platform, Montero on Boxing, whether it's on Twitter, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever. I build it organically. I don't pay to play. I don't buy subscribers. I don't buy bots. I don't do any of that trash that 90% of the other channels, the independent operators, do. I build this thing organically because of you guys. So pay the fee. Every single episode, if you get something out of it, you have a good time, you enjoy it, just share it on your social. Share it with your friends. Spread the word about the show. That's all I ask, guys. That is the fee. So jump on the chat, get on here. Let's do this thing. We've got plenty to talk about. Not a whole lot in the news and notes, world right now because it's just the beginning of the year. We're just getting started, but only 1 week into the year, we had some boxing last weekend, and not surprisingly, it was a pay-per-view. So we'll talk about that. We'll review the whole card. I'll give you guys my thoughts, the good, the bad, the ugly, and what may or may not happen next for the fighters involved. And then we will preview what we got coming up this weekend. We do have a fight card, Top Rank's debut card. It's not pay-per-view. It's on regular ESPN, ESPN+. So we'll talk about all of that. Wow, we already got some super chats from my man Aaron. Let's jump on these real quick. He says, love you, Mike. PBC fans didn't take too kindly to my saying that the backflip at the end was the greatest accomplishment in Tank's career to date. So obviously, my man Aaron is referring to Javonte Davis's backflip off the ring, the post, in the ring corner after his win over Hector Luis Garcia. This Saturday, we'll talk all about that and break it down. I got to admit, the backflip is impressive because not only just to be able to do a backflip, I could do a backflip when I was like in high school. If I tried it now, I'd break my neck. Seriously, I'm too tall for that shit. But to do it, after a fight and everything is impressive, but then to do it with everyone watching, knowing that if you screw up just this much, if you screw up like by an inch, it's going to go viral and everyone's going to see it. Thousands of people were in attendance. So I'll give Javonte Davis props on the backflip, but I'm with you. That may have been the greatest accomplishment of the evening for him. Actually, I'll say the greatest accomplishment was probably all the tickets he sold. The commercial success that way, because I don't think that pay-per-view sold well, but we'll talk about that. Aaron with another super chat. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much, brother. He says, in all honesty, though, Mike, Tank must have no confidence in his ability if he's exclusively fighting guys of this caliber at this stage in his career. We'll talk about that too. Is it Tank that doesn't have the confidence, or is it his handlers? There has to be somebody somewhere that just feels they got to hold the kid back because you're right, dude. He's been a pro now. We'll pull up his resume, but I want to say he's been a pro for damn near a decade, going on a decade now. And it's just ridiculous the way that they're holding him back. And my beef with it is just that he's fighting on pay-per-view. I don't give a shit who fights who. It's their life. And you can fight whoever you want to fight, These guys are getting in the ring, doing what they want to do. So whatever. But to expect the accolades, pound for pound list, fighter of the year, this sort of thing, and then be called a multi-division champion, to be fighting on pay-per-view and headlining these massive shows, fighting this level of opposition, that's where I take issue. That's all. So my issue isn't necessarily with Javonte Davis. It's with his handlers and the spin the mental gymnastics that Steven Espinoza and the people at Showtime are performing right now. I saw Steven post some stuff. I can't remember if it was Twitter, Instagram, whatever, where he was talking about Hector Luis Garcia like he's the second coming of Willie Pep or Sugar Ray Robinson or something, trying to build this guy up as if he's anywhere near the top 10 best opponents for Javonte Davis right now. He's really not. He's not even, there are 10 opponents between 130 to 135 I could name right now that would be much tougher fights for Javonte Davis. And you guys all could too, right? So the spin that's happening over there is just, it's nauseating. And for people who call it out, they take all sorts of shit. But anyway, I just pulled up Javonte Davis's box rec here because I forgot, but he went pro in 2013, guys. So he went pro a decade ago. It's time to take the kid gloves off. But anyway, we'll get into all that. I promise. All right. Let's see. Where are we at here? Oh, we got a super chat from my man, Rock. Thank you so much, Rock. I appreciate it, man. He says, Happy New Year, Mike. Happy New Year to you, brother. Happy New Year to all you guys. If you're just getting on the show, please make sure that you smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed, all the good stuff, and pay the fee. We need you guys to pay the fee. All right. We always need. Oh, we got, I'm looking in the comment section. Sex69.fun. Hot girls here. Oh, wow. All right. I think you're on the wrong show. I'm going to have to block you. We don't do spam over here. So goodbye, hot girls here. We like hot girls, but we're talking boxing here. So bye-bye spam. All right. We got another super chat from my man, CJ. Thank you so much, CJ. He says, salute to MOB crew for 2023. Might be contrarian, but Pedraza is not Tank's best win. Interesting. It's Pitbull, Isaac Cruz, and that's not saying much. All hail the Reggie King. Man, I might agree with you on that. I was even thinking about it because I was looking at Steven Espinoza's tweet, and I think it was a tweet, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he said something like, Hector Luis Garcia had like 400 amateur fights. Now, I don't know if that's true. It's hard for me to believe this guy had 400 amateur fights, but I swear that's what I saw posted out there. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But even if the guy had hundreds of amateur fights, okay, he was a 2016 Olympian. I think you could make an argument based on Garcia's age, the win he just had last year. It wasn't his last win, but it was his second to last win over Colbert, right? That big upset win. Him having, I think, a piece of a title at 130, being, I think, only 31 years old, which for Tank is young. You can make an argument, man, Hector Luis Garcia might be his best opponent. Seriously. It's between Pitbull, Isaac Cruz, Pitbull, or Hector Luis Garcia for me, and then maybe Pedraza if you go back. But, I mean, if those are the guys that you're fighting over, if that's who we're arguing over, that's your best win, and you've headlined 5 straight pay-per-views where you're asking boxing fans to pony up $75, and your handlers are calling you a multi-division champion, this, that, the other. I take issue with a lot of that. And the thing is, dude, Gervonta Davis is a pretty fun fighter to watch. He's an entertaining fighter. He last Saturday, I did catch the fight. I didn't watch the fight. I'll be completely honest. I didn't buy the pay-per-view. I didn't stream it. I didn't watch it. I have an infant baby that I'm taking care of that's going on 3 months old. She's like 2.5 months old now. And we've had some difficulties with her lately with feeding. My daughter's kind of regressed. And there's, certain things that we're going through that's tough because of that, because she's lost weight and we're concerned and stressed out, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even watch this shit. But anyway, the next morning, I found a fight on YouTube and I watched it. Wasn't the most entertaining fight, but rounds 6, 7, 8, those got to be more entertaining. And Tank really does know how to finish opponents. Although that's, this was more of Garcia, feeling he couldn't see. And again, we'll get into that in a minute. Another super chat from Rock. Thank you so much, man. He says, Boots Ennis isn't ready for Crawford. Maybe Spence, but definitely not Crawford. We'll talk about that too, because I saw the reaction to people. Boots Ennis won 12 of 12 rounds against Karen Cuck something. We'll talk about Karen Cuck later on. But he dominated that fight, yet he's still getting criticized. And is it the right amount of criticism? Is it too much? Is it too little? We'll talk about that. But I'm with you, dude. For the people that think that Boots Ennis could just walk right into a fight right now against Terrence Crawford, and I'm even going to include Spence. I hear what you're saying, though, with maybe Spence, because Spence has been so inactive and he's had the eye injury and all that. So I hear what you're saying, but I wouldn't even put him in with Spence right now. He's not there. He needs somebody in the top 15, top 10 to bridge that gap to get to the main two guys. Because clearly it's Crawford and Spence, and then it's the field, right, at that welterweight division. So I'm with you. He definitely needs to step it up a little bit and get way more active. All right, you know what? Let's you guys definitely want, I could tell there's a fever. There's a fever for the review. So let's get into that. And let me see here. Let's see if I can set this up. Yeah, okay. There we go. Let's do this thing. Let's get right into the fight review. So I got to go back a couple weeks. And by the way, guys, I missed you, man. It's been a few weeks. I missed you guys. I hope you had a great holidays. Mine was kind of stressful. I won't talk too much about my family stuff, but yeah, my little Jackie kind of regressed with her feeding. She kind of lost weight for a little while. It's been very stressful for me and my wife, Tiffany. We've had to work with some doctors to figure out what's going on. Some babies have issues latching, and then some babies have like acid reflux. It's not hereditary or anything. It's just some babies get it, some don't. So right now, my baby's having a lot of stomach pain and stuff when she eats, and that's making her kind of almost scared to eat. And even when my wife pumps and we use the bottle to feed her, she won't let anybody feed her but my wife. She won't even let me feed her right now. Although I got to feed her a little bit yesterday. We're like slowly turning a corner there, but it's been stressful. That's been tough. But some babies get this apparently and they outgrow it. So we're just going to have to deal with it. And then also my mother, you guys know my mother's health is not doing very well. And she wound up back in the hospital and just, so all this happened over the holidays. So it's been a difficult holidays for me and my family. I hope you guys had a good holidays though, and you're ready to get things going this year, man. But I got to go back to December 31st, New Year's Eve, right, in Tokyo. Let's talk about this real quick, and then we'll get to, I promise, we'll get to which everyone wants to talk about, Tank Davis. I promise I'm going to get there. But I got to back up just a week or so. Kazuto Ioka defending his WBO belt and Joshua Franco defending his WBA belt. This was, of course, junior bantamweight or super flyweight, whichever you prefer. These two were fighting in Tokyo to unify their belts. Winds up a majority draw. A lot of people online, a lot of American boxing fans, from what I saw, felt that Franco got flat out robbed. And at first, that was my first kind of gut feel because of the volume of Franco. He threw so many punches. In fact, CompuBox credited him with throwing over 1,400 punches, 1,412 to be exact. All right. And in fact, CompuBox credited both fighters with landing over 2,200 punches, which is a record, a CompuBox record for a 115-pound fight. So a lot of punches thrown here, but Franco threw almost twice as much as Ioka. So at first, it looked like, wow, how could they have this a draw? This is home cooking, blah, blah, blah. But if you watch that fight again, guys, Ioka blocked and slipped a lot of those punches. And although he only threw half as many, he actually landed more. And according to CompuBox, which let's, before some of you guys start saying, oh, it's biased. CompuBox is an American company. Franco's an American fighter, okay? So if they're going to be biased in any direction, if you want to play the conspiracy game, I don't think it'd be in Ioka's favor. But according to CompuBox, Franco landed 202 punches out of 1412. That's 14%. Ioka landed 214 out of 797. That's 27%. So he was more accurate in landing the counter punches, the sharper punches. He outlanded Franco in every single punching category: jabs, power punches, and especially body punches. Ioka landed 96 body punches to 66 for Franco. So when you look at, and you don't score fights based on punch numbers, I get that. But I think it's indicative of what we saw in this fight. If you edged it for Franco, got you. No hate there. I totally can see that. But I'm okay with the draw. I got to say, all things considered, I'm okay with the draw because a lot of Franco's activity wasn't necessarily effective. Ioka seemed to be more effective when he got offensive. These two got to fight again. They just have to. The fact that DAZN or ESPN Plus did not pick up this fight in America is just disgusting. And it shows just one of 1,000 things that are wrong with boxing in America right now. These two need to do a rematch in the first half of this year, and it needs to be picked up by an American broadcaster. And also, I don't think you guys in the UK got it. I think so. So I don't even think this was on DAZN in most markets. You guys, again, correct me if I'm wrong. I know we have listeners from all over the world. Let me know, were you able to catch this fight on TV or on a streaming platform that you subscribe to? I'm not talking about some crap you found on some, crack internet site or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, were you able to watch this live on a regular streaming platform that you are a subscriber to? Let me know, because outside of Japan, I don't think many of you were able to see this in the Western world. And that alone is a travesty. But these two need to do it again. And I want to see what adjustments they can both make. For Franco, he's had 2 trilogies already. And he showed in those trilogies that he was able to make adjustments and improve in the subsequent fights. Can you do that here against Ioka? Bam Rodriguez gets a lot of attention, and he should. Really good young fighter. But his half-brother, Joshua Franco, doesn't get enough love. I actually think Franco is an underrated fighter. I really, really do. And there's things that he can improve on, and I expect him to perform better in the rematch. I really hope these two do it again. Okay, let's talk about last Saturday, man. Last Saturday, first big card of 2023. I say big card because it featured probably the biggest quote-unquote young American star, the most bankable young American fighter right now. Again, I use quotes when I say young because I want to say Davis is 28, 29 years old. But he's certainly, in the entire PBC stable, he's the guy right now that they are putting everything behind, right? And again, all the mental gymnastics and stuff with the titles and the way they promote him, but then also the legal things that are happening. And he had some legal issues, that happened just before this fight. And he has some pending legal issues that I think are coming up. I think he has a court date next month in February. And I didn't watch the broadcast, but I asked you guys, did they talk about this? And several of you responded to me and messaged me, DM me and stuff and said, Mike, they completely glanced over all that shit. They really, really did. Barely a mention of any of it. And when they did mention it, it was early in the broadcast. It wasn't brought up in the post-fight interview with Gervonta Davis, just none of it. So clearly the promotion is putting all their chips, with Gervonta Davis. So that's why I say this was the first big event, first notable card. And in the main event, Javonte Davis scores a TKO 9 win against Hector Luis Garcia, who suffered his first loss as a pro. Really no surprise there. And then if you believe the reports, it's supposed to be Ryan Garcia next, King Rye, in April. I don't think they still have a venue or an exact date. Correct me if I'm wrong. Once again, I've been a little bit out of the loop last few weeks with all the craziness going on in my life. But as far as I know, it's just a date and site to be determined in April. My hunch is it'd be in a Vegas casino because they're going for the money there. But with everything pending and looming, all the legal stuff for Davis, who knows if that will happen. We'll talk more about that in a second. Let's look at the undercard, okay? Brandon Lee and Vito Mielnicki Jr. scored TKO wins. For Brandon Lee, who is now 27-0, all 27 of his opponents are guys that, when you pull it up on BoxRec, again, there's a star system there rating the fight. And it goes from 0 stars, I think, to 5 stars, maybe 4 or 5 stars. A lot of his opponents, most of them are 0 stars or 1 star. This guy has been a pro for a long time. And again, when you see a guy who's being protected like that and matched that way, PBC's never been good at developing young fighters. They're just not very good at it. They're good at protecting a lot of fighters and manipulating the sanctioning organizations and stuff to the advantage of those fighters. But even for a PBC fighter, Brandon Lee has really been protected. And you just got to wonder, what are they seeing? What are his handlers seeing at the gym that they feel the need to keep him on a leash? Because 27 fights in, bro, it's time. It's time to step him up. And he's very marketable with his mixed heritage, and he's an entertaining fighter. He's from California, which is the biggest boxing market in North America now. It basically runs boxing in America. Well, California and Texas. So if you have a fighter from Cali or a fighter from Texas, it's easy to market them now. But I just don't know what they're doing with this guy. So I got to mention that. Look, I like Brandon. He's been on the show. I like Brandon, but time to step it up, bro. 27 fights in. All right, so let's talk about the main pay-per-view card. Jaron Ennis and Demetrius Andrade fought in showcases. And if you don't believe me that there were showcases, I said this going in, and there were some people online, on social media that really took offense to it and thought, oh, you're just a hater. Mike, look at what the odds makers had the odds at going into this damn event. Up top to bottom. Really, really super wide odds, okay? And generally speaking, the odds makers get this shit right. Do they get it wrong sometimes? Abso-freaking-lutely they do. There's plenty of cases we can call out where there are major, major upsets in boxing. But for the most part, the odds makers call it pretty much on the nose, right? So what I found most interesting is that Ennis and Andrade, against completely overmatched, outsized, and outclassed opponents, they took them the distance. And I think especially in the case of Ennis, it has to be due to inactivity more than anything else. Yeah, styles and stuff like that, I get it. But inactivity more than anything else. Starting with Demetrius Andrade, who wins a unanimous decision against Damon Nicholson in a super middleweight fight. This is Andrade's, move up to super middleweight now. He's officially dumped that middleweight title. So he's fighting in his 3rd division. And now being a PBC guy, they will manipulate the rating system to get him bumped up in the WBA or one of them, and he'll grab another belt. He'll be the regular WBA champ or something at super middleweight. You wait and see, guys. He absolutely will. And then they're going to call him a 3-division titleist, a 3-division champion. That's what's going to happen there. But this guy he fought, Damon Nicholson, took the distance. I think he dropped him once, won every single round, dominated in that respect. But Nicholson has lost against Edgar Berlanga, Jesse Hart, Steve Rolls, okay? That level of fighter hasn't just beat this guy. They've dominated him. He's been stopped twice. So that level of fighter has dominated him in terms of boxing and rounds, and he's even been stopped twice by that level of opposition. Demetrius Andrade couldn't get him out of there. So Andrade gets beat up a lot, on a lot of shows and stuff. I'm not going to sit here and beat up on Demetrius Andrade for the next 10 minutes. His style is not very entertaining. His personality, while it's interesting and he is a colorful character And he's a marketable guy because he's so colorful, and he's a good-looking guy. He's actually well-spoken. He's quirky and weird, and that works if it's marketed the right way. He's kind of like a hipster doofus, the hipster doofus of boxing. If he was marketed the right way, I actually think he's quite marketable in terms of his personality. But he can be very off-putting when he says things like, "Oh, I'm not traveling for that fight. Oh, why would I fight this guy? What has that guy done to deserve a fight with me?" Like, that's his attitude anytime you ask him about a litany of opponents, right? Including the guy at 160 that was his mandatory, Janibek Alkanala. A lot of people wanted to see that fight. Andre wanted no part of it. And he has negotiated his way out of fight after fight after fight. He's had hard luck a couple times. The Billy Joe Saunders situation, right? That was 100% on Billy Joe. He cheated, got caught. That's not on Andrade. But there are so many situations where this guy has talked his way and negotiated his way out of opportunities. I can't feel bad for him. Despite fighting very few high-level opponents, especially since he's moved up to 60, and now at 68, he's not going to fight anybody big time. He's made millions of dollars. In terms of his value, his fair market value in the sport, and how much he's made, he is quite possibly the most overpaid fighter in this generation of boxing when you consider all those factors. And mark my words, the PBC will wiggle his way into a share of the WBC or WBA title somewhere at 168. It's also, he has an in with the WBO if he wants to go that route, but I don't know how that will happen. We'll see. But he might end up being a 3-division champion. Like, seriously, on paper anyway. It's just very, very, it's difficult to feel bad for the guy, and it's difficult to root for the guy because so much of he gets in the ring finally against this level of opposition. And although he dominated, people couldn't wait for the fight to be over. No one's talking about, "Oh man, I got to see this guy again. Oh shit, I got to see him against Benavidez. I got to see him against the main man, Canelo. I got to see him against this guy, that guy, whatever." Nobody cares. So that's all I got to say about him. I'm moving on. Jaron Ennis beats Karen Kukhadzian for the interim IBF welterweight title. This was another one where it goes to 12-round distance. Karen Kuk had some skills to survive, ran a lot, was defensive. It's difficult to engage with an opponent that's just trying to survive in there. I get all those things. But if Jaron Ennis is this absolute dynamo of a fighter, right? If he's ready to be the pound for pound #1 guy in the sport, which is how a lot of people have been talking about him on Twitter and all that, he gets this guy out of there. He at least drops him a couple times or forces the corner to step in. Was there a scratch on Karen Kuk's face? Was there a scratch on his face at the end of this fight? Right? If Ennis is this huge, powerful puncher, and he's fighting a guy that he's way better than in every single category, you can't put a scratch on the guy. I mean, even Andre dropped his opponent, right? So forget the fact that this is for the vacant IBF belt or interim or whatever. Again, that's a complete manipulation of the rating system. We all know that Spence and Crawford will likely fight this year. Whether they fight each other or not, Spence is going to move up to 154. So basically, by the year's end, Ennis will be elevated to the IBF champion. That's what this was. This was Espinoza, and I'm going to use his favorite word lately, leverage. He got Ennis leverage to grab a piece of the welterweight championship. That's what this was. Okay, so now he's going to have a belt, a full belt by the end of the year. I get all that. Great. But did this fight help prepare him in any way whatsoever to potentially face a guy like Spence, Crawford, even another young gun like, let's say, Virgil Ortiz? Absolutely freaking not. And there were definite flaws in his performance. it was great. It was fantastic in the fact that he dominated, and he dominated a guy that's never been dominated like this. I get all that. But look, we might find out that this Kadzian is an elite level fighter down the road. I don't think so. That's not what I saw. I don't think that's what you guys saw either. But right now, I'm going to take it at face value. Ennis dominated, but if he's ready for the top guys, this fight should have looked a little different. So clearly, Ennis is a guy that hasn't been developed very well, and there's still some seasoning that needs to go on that steak before it's ready to eat. All right. He's got to get in there against the top 10 guy, top 15 guy. And we got to see him in there with somebody that can punch back, is willing to punch back, and give him some something to think about in the ring. He hasn't faced that yet. He just hasn't. So I'm still super duper high on Jaron Boots Ennis. Don't get me wrong. He has the look of a potential, maybe pound for pound number one type of fighter. Like, he has that special look to him, right? But and this is just one performance. He was chronically inactive recently, shaking off some rust. I get all those things, okay? But I think some of you need to pump the brakes just a little bit. It's just like with Janibek. A lot of you guys were saying this dude's the new Gennady Golovkin, this, that, the other thing. I think you need to pump the brakes there. It's what I always say on the show. You guys you can't look at just the last performance. You got to judge a fighter by what their totality, their full body of work. But we got to see what they do against someone who can punch back, right? So anyway, we need to see more of Jaron Ennis, and we need to see him hopefully against a top level fighter this year. The performance of the night was from Venezuelan Royman Villa, who scored a majority decision win over the previously undefeated Rashidi Ellis, who took his first loss of his professional career. Ellis signed with PBC last year. Less than a year after signing with PBC, takes his first loss. He was with Golden Boy before, and a lot of people said Golden Boy wasn't treating him right. I don't know. He didn't lose with them, and he was fighting fairly regularly. He signed with PBC about a year ago, gets in the ring this Saturday, loses to a guy who was brought in as an opponent. So this was, in terms of betting, this was a minor upset. Ellis was the favorite, but this was, I guess, the closest fight on the card in terms of the betting odds. So if you were going to go for an upset on your betting pool or whatever, this was the fight. This would be the fight you go with. I found it hilarious that some people thought Ennis could potentially lose, Andrade could lose, Davis could lose. I just laughed at all those people, and I'm thinking, my God, I should start betting. I should open up a casino or something, because I can make so much money off some of these people. They are so gullible. This was the fight where potentially you had an upset, and that's what happened. So Ellis dominated the first half, and really the first, like in terms of punching numbers and stuff, the first 7-8 rounds. But Villa came on late, and he was landing a lot of power punches. Ellis was all jab, all jab, all jab. And eventually, dude, if you got a guy who can take your shot and he's coming forward and he's throwing to the body, he's throwing hard shots, you got to give him something to think about. Ellis didn't do that. And Ellis has been not the most active fighter. I think he signed with PBC about a year ago. He had a low-level opponent in his first fight with PBC back early last year, and then sat in his butt the rest of the year. Surprise, surprise. He gets in there against a guy who's motivated and has a motor on him and can take his power, and he surged late. Villa dropped him twice in the 12th round. That's all she wrote. And the fact that this was a majority decision, to me, was not cool. I thought that Villa clearly won. I want to look this up because I just want to make sure I get this right. Okay, so last year, it was last July that Rashidi Ellis fought. And who did he fight? It was on the Vargas Magsayo card. the Figueroa Castro card there in San Antonio, Texas. But Ellis fought a guy named Jose Marufo, who was 13-10-2 coming in and was a career 140. Actually started his career at featherweight. And so this guy right now, Jose Marufo, is 14-11-2 with 2 knockouts. So in 27 pro bouts, he has 2 knockouts. That's who Ellis fought in his first fight with PBC. The fight ended in the first round. Marufo was down twice. After that, Ellis sat in his butt for 6 months after that opponent. So obviously against Villa, this was a pretty big step up in opposition. And Villa had fought, Villa fought 3 times in 2022. And Villa, I'm just looking at his resume, mostly fought in Venezuela, his home country, but he was more active last year. And in his last fight in September, he went 8 rounds. So he got, let's see, how many rounds of work? Villa got 13 rounds of work last year, and Ellis got 1. Activity matters, guys. It matters. And, you know, Ellis, his last fight with Golden Boy was against Alexis Rocha, who came into that fight undefeated, and he won that fight. And it was looking pretty good for Ellis at that time. And then he went a different direction, and you see what happened. I'm just going to leave that there. So anyway, main event time. Let's talk about this. Javonte Davis improves to 28-0, TKO 9 win over Hector Luis Garcia, who is now 16-1. Judges had Tank up big. I think the judges gave Garcia 1 round. To me, it felt a bit closer, but I did feel Tank was ahead at the time of the stoppage. After 8 full rounds, Javonte Davis was ahead on my card. But Garcia clearly won, in my opinion, the second and third rounds. He won the first round. Nothing happened. My dick threw more punches in the first round, and I wasn't even watching the fight. Okay, then both guys combined. My dick, CompuBox numbers, threw more punches to both of them. Nothing happened. 10-10 round. Second and third round, Garcia won those rounds just based on activity. Threw more, landed more. So after 3 rounds, yeah, Garcia's winning the fight. But into the middle rounds, Tank picked up the volume, started to get some real good body work done, power punches. There's really no steam on any of Garcia's shots. He did land some, had 0 effect on Tank. And we've seen Tank get hit in just about every fight. Some opponents have been able to stop him in his tracks. No one's been able to really hurt him. But guys have been able to stop him in his tracks and force him to reset. Garcia really couldn't even do that after the first 3 rounds. That being said, Garcia may have won the 5th, 6th. I mean, there was a couple of close rounds in there. So maybe you could give Garcia 3 rounds. Maybe you could have this 5-3 Tank after 8. But none of it mattered because in the 8th round, Tank hurt Garcia, and Garcia at the end of the round, he made it out of the round. But in his corner, he complained that he couldn't see, and he had lost vision because he had been hit so hard. Some people complained that the shot was kind of to the back of the head, but that was Garcia's fault. I don't blame Tank for that. Garcia kind of bent over, and so Tank hit him where he could. That's more on Garcia. I don't really blame Tank for that. So he retired on a stool. Now, Teddy Atlas and some other people on Twitter said, oh, this guy looked like he may have quit. Look, I don't buy into any of that. I don't think Garcia quit. I think that we don't know. We're not in his body. He felt he couldn't continue. Do any of you think that he had a chance in hell to win that fight? So the truth is, who gives a flying fuck if he retired on the stool? The judges had Gervonta Davis ahead 7 rounds to 1 after 8 rounds. Garcia wasn't going to win the damn fight, people. So some of you complaining about Garcia retiring on a stool and all this, I just don't get some of you guys. Stop being so gullible and simple. Also, I want to put something to bed here, a particular argument. I've seen people say on Twitter and stuff that Hector Luis Garcia was the quote-unquote bigger man. And this was impressive that Javonte Davis was able to hurt this bigger man and take this bigger man's punches. Guys, they don't have height classes in boxing. They have weight classes, okay? Just because a fighter's taller or longer does not necessarily mean they're the bigger man. Doesn't mean that they punch harder. Doesn't mean they take a punch better. Doesn't mean they're sturdier, stronger, more explosive, stronger, harder punching. It doesn't mean any of that. I tweeted this, I think, yesterday. Is Sebastian Fondura, is he bigger than Andy Ruiz? Is he bigger than Alexander Usyk or Artur Beterbiev? Is he? Clearly he's not, right? It's not rhetorical. It's kind of rhetorical, but you guys get what I'm saying. But there are people out there, again, and I think there's just a lot of people that are rushing to make Tank the next big thing. And I get that. I understand why. I really do. There are things with Tank that I do like. I'll talk about. I tweeted about it this weekend. But let's put this to bed. Hector Luis Garcia had this was his 17th pro fight, okay? 13 of his 17 fights were at featherweight. That's 126. 3 of them were at 130, junior lightweight. And he moved up to 130 a year ago at 30 years old, okay? He didn't move up at 20 years old, 25 years old. He moved up at 30 years old. So at 30, he decided he could no longer make 126 and it was more comfortable to make 130. And then now at 31, he just had his first fight at 135. You contrast with Gervonta Davis, who I know he's like 4'11". I get it. But in terms of his size, Tank has campaigned pretty much his entire career at 130 to 135. He's even had fights at 140 since he was 20 years old. So a guy fighting at 130, 135 since basically the age of 20, compared to a guy that just moved up to 130 at the age of 30, people, Gervonta Davis is the naturally bigger, stronger, more explosive, more athletic, harder punching fighter. Can we put that argument to bed now? Hopefully what I just said absorbed in some of your brains. Stop being so simple. So, the broadcast. They called Tank the lightweight champion. The ring announcer called Tank the lightweight champion. The real lightweight champion is Devin Haney. And it's shitty that the promotion, the broadcast didn't make that clear and concise. I think it would be totally fair to say and legitimate, responsible for the broadcast to clearly state, Devin Haney is the undisputed lightweight champion of the world. Gervonta Davis is the undisputed moneymaker and ticket seller of the lightweight division. I think that'd be very, very fair to say, because when you compare Tank to Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, these young guys in and around 135, and even somebody like Lomachenko, an older guy, a veteran, and some of these other veterans, I think clearly, at least in the United States, Tank sells more tickets than those guys. And we don't really know what kind of ratings he would do because he only fights on pay-per-view these days, but I think clearly he does more media traffic, more social media traffic. If he were fighting on ESPN or something like that, he'd do bigger ratings than Lomachenko. I think it's fair to say all those things. He's the ticket seller and the economic muscle of the lightweight division. Totally fair to say that. But he's not the damn champion. And why can't we say both things? Why can't we just say that Devin Haney's the undisputed lightweight champion of the world, Gervonta Davis, undisputed ticket seller of the lightweight division? I think that'd be totally fair and just for the promotion to say. Steven Espinoza came out and said something like that, I give the man full credit. I'd retweet that shit, right? If he tweeted that out. I just don't know why we are in a place in boxing. I guess it's indicative of all things in our society, you know, because people do this with everything, with politics and sexuality, all this stuff. But like, you have to be like all the way on one side or all the way on the other. What if the truth is kind of in the middle somewhere? What if there's a little bit of truth on both sides and a little bit of bullshit on both sides? Why can't we talk about all that? So anyway, the Tank Davis circus and the machine is not going away, right? They're going to continue to milk this thing and keep doing it. And Gary Russell Jr. and his family were ringside, and there's some rap dude I'd never even heard of that got in this scuffle that really wasn't a scuffle. It was a, oh shit, hold me back. I'm going to punch him. Hold me back. No one's going to punch each other, right? It was one of those. But Gary Russell being there and getting in that little scuffle ringside, I think it's clear that later this year or down the road, we get a Showtime pay-per-view between Gary Russell and Javonte Davis. Russell lost a recent fight, which kind of screwed that up. So maybe one of the other Russell brothers could get in there and fight Davis. I think that that's a possibility down the road, a beltway fight, because you'll have DC versus Baltimore. Tank just fought in DC. It's so easily scripted. It's just, you know they want to go in that direction. So that's there. Do we get the Ryan Garcia fight? I don't know, dude. If I'm Ryan Garcia, I think it was incredibly stupid for him to pull out of that tune-up fight against Mercito Hesta, knowing that Gervonta Davis has a court date next month. Because if somehow, some way, Gervonta Davis actually faces some legal ramifications for all the things he's done and actually has to serve a suspension or do community service or something like that, or even possibly go to jail. I don't think he will. I'll talk about that in a minute. If that does happen, then the fight between King Rye and Tank doesn't occur in April. And Ryan Garcia is left standing there with his dick in his hand. So for him to not take that fight against Mercito Gesta, I just thought that was incredibly stupid. Hopefully his team at Golden Boy have some sort of plan B, because everything's up in the air right now with this Tank Davis fight. That being said, Gervonta Davis, I really don't think he's going to do a day in jail. I hate to sound so cynical, but for everything that he did, he is, in our society, in America, athletes, entertainers, politicians, our so-called, leaders in society, they don't do jail time. They have privilege. They are the privileged ones that kind of get away with shit that you or I would do time for. So clearly, Gervonta Davis is protected by elites in our society, that being network executives, high-ranking promotional executives at PBC. There are all sorts of legal people tied to Showtime, CBS, and all that. Steven Espinoza is all in on the Tank Davis protection thing. I just think that he has a buffer, a layer of protection around him. Guys like him are protected in our society, and I don't think he's going to do jail time. I think he's going to get a slap on the wrist, some sort of probation, something like that. And it would not surprise me at all if he gets the go-ahead to fight Ryan Garcia in April. So taking them at their word that fight actually happens, and I'm not convinced, because the same sources, quote unquote, that told us Spence and Crawford were going to fight 18,000 times last summer, those same sources, they were wrong on that. They were dead wrong. In fact, negotiations never really even happened. Both sides were going in completely different directions the whole freaking time. Ridiculous. So, but assuming it does, a lot of people out there are saying Gervonta Davis is going to flatten Ryan Garcia. I don't know about that. Gervonta Davis starts very, very slow. The first 3-4 rounds of a fight, you can definitely outwork him and win those rounds and put him in the bank. You can also definitely touch him. He's looking for counter opportunities. He's a counter puncher. And quite frankly, he's one of the best counter punchers in the lower weight divisions in terms of counter punching with power. Not just scoring, but scoring with power. And so that's what makes him exciting, right? He's looking for, he just wants to catch stuff on the elbows and shoulders. He doesn't get enough credit for rolling with punches and stuff because he wants to stay in the pocket. He's such a little guy. He's so tiny and short. He's almost always going to be fighting guys who are taller than him. He's got to get inside, and he's got to get underneath your power, inside of your power, and get you punching over him and around him so he can counter, right? That's what he wants to do. That's his style. But if Ryan Garcia can stay on the outside and just jab the shit out of Tank Davis for the first 3 or 4 rounds and put those rounds in the bank, and then Tank is working from a deficit 3-4 rounds in, because the judges are not going to give Tank the same favors against King Rai that they've given him against every single opponent he's ever fought. This is going to be a little different. This is going to be like, I get that financially Tank is the A side, but it's not as wide of a gap as he's used to. King Rai does bring some muscle to the table as well, right? So, and then style-wise, the judges are going to see this tall, long kid jabbing the shit out of this little dude trying to work his way in. And those are going to be easy rounds to score. So if Goosen has Garcia preparing for that sort of thing, and I think Goosen's a good trainer and a smart guy in terms of boxing, he has a good boxing brain, I think they're going to prepare for that. The question will be, what happens when Tank does get inside and starts to land hard body punches, starts to loop punches around, throw uppercuts, 45s, hooks, and starts to catch Ryan Garcia on the temple, on the side of the head, the back of the head. I don't know if he'll ever catch him on the chin. I don't know. It's possible, because Ryan doesn't move his head a lot. But I'm talking middle rounds. What happens when Tank starts to do that? How does King Rai respond? That's the part I don't know. I don't know. But I'm telling you guys, 3-4 rounds into that fight, I think it's going to be one-way traffic for Garcia. That's the way just based upon what each guy has done recently, that's what I see. And in terms of opposition, King Rai hasn't faced the best opposition. He clearly hasn't. But neither has Javonte Davis. You know, I mean, let me see. I got to pull up King Rai's resume real quick just to make sure I don't misquote something. But Javier Fortuna, Emmanuel Tago, Luke Campbell, those are his last 3 opponents. Those guys, are they that much worse than Tank's last 3? Tank's last 3 of Hector Luis Garcia, Rolando Romero, Isaac Cruz. Are they that much worse? I don't know about that. I mean, it might be a wash, honestly. So I don't know. Like I look at that as a 50-50 fight. I really do. I see that as a 50-50 fight right now. The only thing that Tank has coming in is the momentum of having just fought and got in 8 rounds against a guy who is a quality world-class prize fighter in Hector Luis Garcia, because he is. He's absolutely a quality, just a schooled martial artist, right? And for Tank to get 8 rounds of experience against a guy like that, Ryan Garcia could have against Mercito Hesta, but he turned it down. So that might bite him in the ass. All right. Let's see. I think I missed some super chats, but let me make sure I get caught up on all the chats. Let's see what we got. I'm going way, way back up here. Okay. Boom. Sam with the super chat. Thank you so much, Sam. Says Boo looked good, but still has no power. I don't know. Boo Boo, some people like his style. Some people find his style to be really sloppy and just kind of loopy and gumpy and all over the place. I don't know. At 168, you're right. He's not going to have the power against the top guys if he ever fights any of them. And he's just not going to get away with some of the lazy kind of things that he does defensively and stuff. I think a guy like David Benavidez would just pound his ass with no lube. That would just be a complete battering. I really, really do. I think Canelo would stop him with maybe a body shot or something, maybe even like an uppercut. He may even stop him kind of with the shot that he landed against Amir Khan, something like that. You know, that where he dips right like he's going to the body, then comes overhand with it. I think he could land that shot on Andrade. I could absolutely see that. Sam with another super chat. Thanks again, Sam. He says, Boo Boo is like a PGA pro that makes a great living, but never wins big tournaments and makes a ton of money just by keeping his tour card. Yeah, I could absolutely see that comparison. You know who else? I don't know a whole lot about golf or tennis, but your analogy reminds me of tennis because I know there are some tennis players that never win. What is it, Wimbledon? And what's the other big one? I don't. The U.S. Open, I think. I don't know tennis like that, but there are some tennis players that never win the big thing, right? But they make a ton of money. Who is that woman? Anna Kournikova, really, really good looking Russian woman, made millions of dollars and never won anything big. So that happens in tennis too, I think. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's kind of like that. And it used to be in boxing that like you couldn't make money unless you beat the best. But we're in a situation now where you can kind of be, and let's be clear, Demetrius Andrade's a good fighter. He's a good fighter, okay? He is. He could have been better. And he pushed himself and fought the top guys and was forced to improve. But he's I wouldn't call him an elite fighter. And he's a millionaire. He's a multi-millionaire. Crazy. I mean, in one sense, that's a good thing. In one sense, that's a good thing, right? I'm glad dudes are getting paid. I'm happy for that. But, you know, I just can't call the guy a champion. Like, that's crazy. Sam with another super chat. Thanks again. He says, Ellis had him, Villa, out on his feet early, landed, then backed off next round and let him recover. Big mistake not to attack the next round after hurting him badly. I agree, especially when you haven't been very active and you're in there against a guy who's been more active than you and is kind of battle tested and willing to kind of go to that dark place, right? And to me, what that says, Sam, is Ellis didn't have the confidence in his conditioning to kind of empty the tank right there early on and think that, okay, I'm going to be good now for the rest of this fight if I don't hurt him again, if I don't get him out of there. It seemed that he was kind of just always waiting and reserving energy. And what did it do for him? He almost got stopped in the 12th round. I guess had he not conserved his energy to a certain extent, he probably would have been stopped in that 12th round, maybe sooner. But it just goes to show, I just think there was a lack of confidence in his work rate, his activity, because of the conditioning thing, man. Activity matters. Matters, guys. Activity is everything in boxing. Sam, once again, with the super chat. Thanks so much, man. He says, Garcia was a 25-1 dog versus Colbert. Yeah, I think that says a couple things. Colbert, I do think maybe a little overrated. However, I think Colbert beats him in a rematch. I think Colbert took him too lightly, and I even money on a rematch between those two. Big upset. I think it was the biggest upset of the year. I saw like Boxing News, the UK fight magazine named Bivol Canelo the upset of the year last year. That's hilarious. They're just going for clicks there. I mean, clearly Garcia Colbert was a much bigger upset. So yeah, Colbert's a little overrated, but I do think he took Garcia really, really just way too lightly. And I think that cost him. I'd like to see that rematch. I'd like to see Garcia move back down to 130 and see him and Colbert fight again. I think that'd be fun. Okay. We caught up. Yes. Oh, we got some more sex comments in here. XXX6.online. A dating for all tastes and ages. All right. Jesus Christ. Who are these people, man? Is that, I mean, does anyone click on that shit? Like for real? Like, oh, yeah, let me click on this. I'll meet my girlfriend. Who clicks on that shit? Simps, I tells you. I think my phone's just dropped, guys. Damn it. My phone's just dropped. All right. It's all good. I'm sorry for those of you who called in. I don't know what the hell's going on, but my phone's just dropped. So if you guys are on hold, all of you just got hung up on by my system. It wasn't me. I promise. Okay. Let's go to the preview real quick. And we'll talk a little bit about some other stuff. But real quick, preview. So we got some boxing this weekend. Fortunately, it's not on pay-per-view. Saturday, January 14th, Turning Stone Resort to Canseco, upstate New York, Top Rank on ESPN. We got some heavyweights in action. F.A. Ajagba. This is a fun heavyweight matchup. F.A. Ajagba going up against Stephen Shaw. 16-1 Ajagba, 6'6", 85-inch reach. He's 28 years old. Going up against Shaw, who's 18-1, 6'4", 81-inch reach. 30 years old, out of St. Louis, a city that I really love. I lived in for about a year before I moved to Los Angeles back in the day. St. Louis is a fun little town, man. Always have a good time there. So I like that heavyweight matchup. And I like Shaw in this fight. I actually pretty familiar with Shaw. One of the guys that I spar with here in Atlanta fought Shaw a couple years ago. I want to say they fought in like Florida or New Orleans. I can't remember where it was, but it's one of the pro fighters I spar with. A guy who's got like 8-9 professional fights, fought Shaw. And, he came back and talked about his experience. He lost, Shaw stopped him. And Shaw's an explosive puncher and does a lot of good things. And Ajagba, is one of these guys that they lined up can after can after can for him, and he was drilling dudes. Looked really, really impressive until he got in there against the guy that didn't back down and could take the power and punch back. Once that happened, whoa, wait a second. This guy can't fucking box. Oops. But Top Rank signed him, and I think that this is part of what I love about what Top Rank does. There's plenty of things Top Rank does that I don't like, but this sort of matchup here, this is headlining an ESPN card in January. You're going up against Wild Card Weekend. A lot of people are going to be watching football, right? You know that this isn't a date that you want to put on maybe your biggest stars, your best matchup, but this is still a solid heavyweight fight between two guys that need to step up. This is a great step up for both of them. It's a make or break fight, really, for Ajagba. He loses this and loses big. He kind of goes into the gatekeeper type of thing, right? And at one point, he was one of the hottest prospects. Everyone was talking about this guy. For Shaw, if he beats Ajagba, and especially if he does it in style and stops him, which I think he's going to, that's my prediction here. There's going to be some scary moments, don't get me wrong, but I think he's going to stop Ajagba. Ajagba could land something big early on and freeze him a little bit. I think he stops in the middle rounds, maybe late rounds. Then Shaw's the guy we're talking about as an American heavyweight. Suddenly he's the guy, oh, okay, I want to see a little more of this guy. Let's see what else he can do here. So I like this fight a lot, man. I love heavyweights, and especially heavyweight matchups like this. Also on this card, Guido Vianello, 6'6", Italian, going up against Jonathan Rice, who is, a journeyman gatekeeper level heavyweight, but a guy who's been in there with some names, an experienced guy. And for the Italian, he hasn't faced the best opposition. So this is a bit of a step up for him in terms of being in there against an experienced guy. So I'm curious to see how this fight looks. Going to be an entertaining two heavyweight fights there. Also, a nice little junior lightweight fight between Adam Lopez, who's actually moving up from featherweight. He's from Glendale, California, which is a suburb of Los Angeles. Very, very nice little area, Glendale. Had some nice memories there, some good friends up in Glendale, good times. Going up against Abraham Nova, who's been in there with some tough opposition too. He's coming off a knockout loss to Robisi Ramirez last year. So that is a diehard fight fans kind of fight card, right? You got to be a diehard boxing fan to know who these fighters are, but that's the kind of stuff that Top Rank will throw out on ESPN on a weekend like this, where everyone's going to be watching football in America. If you're sick of football and you want to tune into some boxing, boom, you got this. If you want to watch the football live, you can watch this on the ESPN Plus app, Sunday morning or something before the football games start again. So, Wild Card Weekend is pretty much the NFL's got the country on lock, but it's cool to have a little bit of alternative programming. And I love that all three of these matchups, all three of them are competitive. They're not showcase fights. I'm curious to see what the betting odds are on these. I guarantee you it's not going to be like 25-1 like we saw on the pay-per-view this last weekend. So just guys, you got to appreciate what you get sometimes. I'm cool with this card. I like it a lot, even though it's not, big star names or whatever. It definitely is what it is. Oh, another super chat from Sam. He says, I meant Hector Luis Garcia is overrated. Oh, of course, Sam. I completely agree. But it depends who you talk to. If you talk to Vegas odds makers, they weren't overrating him, because wasn't Tank like a 10-1 or 15-1 favorite going into that fight? I think the odds got a little tighter maybe during fight week, but during the entire promotion, he was at least a 10-1 favorite, I believe. So the odds makers had it right. But yes, the American media, who will do anything for access, particularly with premier boxing champions, those guys they will bend over and take it. No Vaseline. You could even stick your fingers in their mouth and pull back on it while you're ramming it in. I mean, they will do anything to get access to these fighters and get gigs and stuff. And so we had to act like Hector Luis Garcia was the second coming of Tony Canzaneri or something, but all that being said, Sam, he's a good, what I would call a schooled professional prize fighter, right? A good enough fighter to hang in there and be competitive for a few rounds with Gervonta Davis, for sure. But yeah, definitely not on that elite level like we were being told. Okay. Let's see what else we got, guys. I could set the phones back up, but then you're going to have to listen to me dial into my software and listen to the operator and stuff. Give me some shit in the chat. We'll talk for a little bit, and then we'll jump off here. First show of 2023, and I'll probably do a show this Friday as well. Things have just been super chaotic for me and my family recently. It's been some difficult times, but definitely, TNC's back, and we're rolling now in 2023. So you guys will get me every Monday for sure. All right. Let's see. We've got about 100 people in the chat here. You guys need to start smashing that thumbs up button more. Come on now. Get on it. Get on it. Nigel's in the chat. He says, how you doing, Mike? Hope you're well and the family is all good. Thank you so much, Nigel. I appreciate it. For those of you who just jumped on, my mother is having some health problems. She's kind of sick right now. She's not doing very well. She was in the hospital over the holidays. So there's just been some difficult stuff that me and my family have been going through. The timing of it's been difficult. But other than that, things going pretty well, and can't complain. And it was still overall very, very cool to have my first holidays with my daughter. And by the way, I should mention, Jackie now is starting to kind of talk to me. And like, I hold her up. She doesn't, she's always looking up at me, obviously. And she's like, who's this freak who's so tall, So when I hold her up just a little bit taller than me, so where she can look down at me, she gets really happy and starts smiling and talking and doing her little baby sounds, And it's just the sweetest damn thing. And so we have little conversations, and she'll go like, and then I'll say something, and she'll go, just it's so great. It's so great, man. So I'm having a lot of fun. It's just stressful, the 24/7 nature of it. And I'm trying to get back into training because I want to do some stuff, some more competitions this year. I got some stuff planned. I can't talk about when it comes to my boxing stuff this year, guys, in terms of me in the ring fighting. I'm not going to talk about the shit until it is signed and we are at fight week. Seriously. I'm just not, because I had 3 or 4 opponents pull out last year. Opponents pulled out, commissions pulled out, promoters canceled events. I had this whole plan of what I wanted to do last year, and it just got blown the hell up, threw me off my game. Anyway, I'm back in training. I started training last week. I got in the gym 4 times last week. First thing I got to do is shed some weight. And that's what I'm working on right now with my diet and stuff. So I'm back in the gym doing my thing. Hard to do when you're getting up a couple times in the middle of the night with, an infant daughter, an infant baby. But other than that, it's pretty good. It's been pretty good. Omar Rodriguez asks, any weightlifting exercises you recommend for boxing? That's a great question, bro. So 2 things, guys, and this is what I'm starting to work on with my training this year. If this bores some of you, sorry, but I've been, I trained with a lot of heavyweight boxers, both amateur and pro, and I work with some strength and conditioning people. I speak with them. I don't work with them directly and train with them necessarily, but we talk a lot. And one thing that I'm going to start utilizing this year in my weightlifting is I've always done the typical bodybuilding type of weightlifting where you do like 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12, and each week you add a little bit of weight, and what that does is it builds muscle, right? Because you tear the muscle, it repairs, you get stronger. However, it doesn't necessarily improve your explosiveness, doesn't necessarily improve your punching power, doesn't necessarily improve your muscular endurance, which is a term I never really knew about till recently. So I am lifting twice a week right now. Mondays are power days, and I am doing nothing but compound lifts, heavy weight, very, very heavy weight. I'm not doing a PR, right? I'm not going for a max lift, but I'm getting within like 70-something% of that, to where once I'm warmed up, I might do a set of 2. I might do like 2 sets of 1 or 2. And then I move on to the next thing. So today I did what I'm doing now on Mondays: power cleans, front squat, back squat, overhead press, sumo deadlift, and then 1 arm bench presses. So like dumbbells, 1 arm at a time. So you have to use your core to stabilize. And I'm not talking about lightweight where you're doing a set of 10. I'm talking about heavy ass weight where you're only doing 2 or 3, to where it feels like you're going to fall over. You really have to use your core to stabilize when you got heavy weight. And then, what's it called? Rows, bent over, 1 arm rows at a time, heavy weight. Again, not doing more than 2 or 3. So that's what I do on Monday. That's all I'm doing. And then I lift again on Friday. And that's the day that is kicking my ass. I learned what a couple of the other heavyweights and the other guys in my gym are doing, particularly guys that are trying to actually cut weight, cut fat. They're going in the gym. This is going to sound crazy to some of you guys, but lifting weights, but doing sets of 100, to where literally you might do a bench press and you might put a 5-pound weight on each side. So you're benching 55 pounds. It's nothing, right? Do a set of 100. That shit gets heavy real quick. I guarantee most of you watching this can't even lift the bar 100 straight times. You can't even bench the barbell 100 times without stopping. So I will do a workout where I will do about 20 or so exercises, sets of 100, to where I'm doing 2,000 reps in an hour. And it's all, it's not the compound lifts and stuff like that, where you're standing or anything. It's flat bench, incline bench, bicep curls, tricep. leg extensions, leg curls, all of that stuff, right? Calf raises, whatever, all of it. 20 different exercises, sets of 100. No matter how light the weight is, shoulder raises, even shrugs and stuff like that, rows, you won't be able to do 100, most of these lifts. You'll have to stop at 50, take a couple of deep breaths, then bust out another 30, take a couple of deep breaths, bust out another 20, right? To where you do that 100 set in maybe 2 minutes. Maybe some of them, it might take 3 or 4 minutes. No rest. You immediately go to the next exercise. What that is doing, and let me tell you, I get way more sore from that than on my power day, because for 20 years, I've done the power lifts, the Olympic style lifts. My body's used to that. That is good for explosiveness, right? The squatting 315 just a couple times. I don't squat beyond 315 right now. I'll work it up to 315 and I'll do 1 or 2 of them, rest. Then I'll do another set, 1 or 2 of them, boom, I'm done with back squat. Then I'll do front squat. I'll front squat 225. Today I deadlifted 405. And I just did it, like 3 sets of 1. I lifted it once, 3 times. That is going to get your explosiveness with the compound movements, right? So that one punch, bam, that burst power. But the sets of 100, I'm sore 2-3 days after doing that shit. And I go to the boxing gym, and my endurance when I'm working the bags, when I'm working the mitts, I haven't started sparring yet. It's too early in the year. We'll probably start that next month. My endurance is better. I'm keeping my hands up better. I'm able to throw combinations easier because my muscular endurance is better. Does that make sense? So I'm not doing your standard 3 sets of 12 shit no more. That's out until I'm done boxing. When I'm done boxing and I want to go back to just building up pretty muscles that look pretty in a shirt and shit, filling out a t-shirt, I'll start doing that shit again. But right now I'm not concerned with how my body looks. It's how my body performs. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. The fight doctor says, I hope Moms makes a full recovery. Thank you, brother. Unfortunately, my mom has lupus, and she was diagnosed with it, in her youth. She's done very, very well with it her whole life. We have pretty good health and genes in my family. So despite her having lupus, she's done very well. But in the last couple of years, it started attacking her brain. For those of you who don't know, lupus is an autoimmune disease where it attacks your body. And it's attacked different parts of her body at different times. It caused her to have cancer for a while, so she had to beat that. And she did. She kicked cancer's ass. And that was a long time ago. But recently it has attacked her brain. And so now she's starting to have seizures and shit. I can't talk. I'll start to tear up. I ain't going to talk about it right now. But Timmy Turner says, I wish your mother a full and speedy recovery. Thank you, Timmy. I appreciate that. Yeah, guys, it's been really difficult, man. I've been dealing with this the last year or so, and it's tough. And so my mom and my dad, everyone came down for Christmas, and everyone stayed at her house, but my mom just wasn't doing very well. So, and then she wound up having to go to the hospital for a little while. So it was just really tough, man. It's been a really stressful time. I'd like to say that over the holidays, I got like a break and I got some rest. It's kind of been the opposite. I'm actually kind of like more tired now than I was before the holidays. So the good news is Mom's is out of the hospital. She's actually staying at my sister's for a little while. My sister's going to keep an eye on her for a little bit. My sister works in the medical field. So she was a nurse, and now she's like a nurse manager, reporting kind of person. So she, it's good that my mom's with her, that's going to help her. And that's good. And then it's good too that my daughter, Jackie, will turn 3 months old in a couple weeks. And they say after 3 months, it starts to get a little bit better with the feeding and the sleeping and stuff. So I think things are going to get better. I think things are going to get better. Gail says weight training with the goal of forcing core stability and balance is gold For all of us athletes post 40, yes, Gail. And I've learned that the hard way. That core stability, the compound exercises, because it's like I used to like do squats, right? And I would do, let's say, 3 sets of 12, right? At 225 or something like that. But I'm finding now that I have more like little joint injuries to my knees or ankles or whatever doing that sort of thing than I do throwing 315 up there and throwing that up 2 or 3 times, or maybe 3, 4 or 5 times, because I'm doing less volume, right? So it's actually less impact on my joints if I'm warmed up and I'm good. And it's, again, I'm not throwing like 405 up there like I did way back I'm not doing that shit. 315, but I'm throwing it up a few times. I'm trying to be explosive, when I come up, nice and fast and engage everything. And then it's like you said, that core stability. It's the same thing with power cleans. I'll power clean 225, but I'll do that once and I'll do like 3 sets of that. And it's like, it takes a lot to recruit to get that weight up, especially my tall ass, to get that weight way up here to flip it and keep your elbows up and all that. You got to have core stability and core strength. So like, I'm not even doing that much ab work. I did, some ab stuff today or whatever, but it was mainly about that stability in the core with the heavy weightlifting. So I'm enjoying that right now. I'm enjoying that. Nacho's asking, not taking calls today, Mike. Nacho, I had my phones up and they just died on me. So the damn software that I'm using is down today. I don't know. So that sucks, but I'll be emailing them to bitch them out. Trust me. We'll have it fixed by Friday, my friend. Johnny says, sending you good vibes, Mike. All the best to you and your family. Forza salute. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Omar says, this is a lot of good info. Could I email you for more details? Absolutely, man. And by the way, guys, if you guys are curious about my training stuff, I do train pretty competitively, at least for a boxing nerd, a boxing writer, definitely more so than most of my peers. If you guys would like me to post some videos showing you some of the stuff I do in the gym, especially for those of you who might be like 30 and above, and then for those of you who are tall, because for tall athletes, squats and deadlifts and stuff, it's a lot. It's different for us. It's different, but you still got to do it. You still got to do it. If you guys want me to do that, let me know. Let me know. Okay, let's see. Nacho says, speedy recovery to your mother, Mike. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very, very much. And Nacho adds, I think Tank will do some jail time, especially since the judge rejected a plea they tried to get done with no jail time. That's interesting. I completely forgot about that, Nacho. I completely forgot about that. Maybe I'm just a cynical prick. I got this. I'm just so used to people getting a slap on the wrist. It's not that I want Tank to do jail time. I just want Tank's situation with this toxic woman in his life to get better, because I think Tank has 2 kids with 2 different women. That's already a really bad situation to start with. Children need a mother and father and that stability at home. They really need that. I mean, study after study proves it. There's data showing this. There's science showing it. But man, if you're getting to the point where this chick is upsetting you, to where you're feeling like you even are wanting to yell at her or put your hands on her, dude, like you gotta walk away, and guys, let me just say this public service announcement. Because I've seen there've been a lot of people like sticking up for Tank, saying, sometimes you can put your hands on a woman. Maybe she started it, guys, listen, I know we live in a time where the current leadership in this country is trying to tell people that men can get pregnant and women are just as strong as men physically. Those things are not true. Okay. For those of you under 30, especially if you're under 20, what you're being taught right now is basically the antithesis of the truth. Men are stronger physically. You can never, ever, under any circumstances, put your hands on a woman. Never. There is just no excuse to do that. Unless a woman's trying to kill you and assault you, or your child, a family member, something, of course you're absolutely entitled to protect yourself against anybody or anything that is causing you harm or threatening your life. That's putting that aside. There is never a situation where it is okay to put your hands on a female. Period. End of. So we've all seen the video of Tank putting his hands on a female at a sporting event in front of thousands of people. We just saw Dana White. We saw a video of him putting his hands on a woman at a public event in front of other people. If those guys are doing things like that in front of other people, and I don't give a shit if Dana White's wife or whatever hit him first. I don't give a shit whatever Javonte Davis's baby mama said to him to get him pissed off. Doesn't matter. Don't put your hands on a woman. You just don't do it, guys. You don't do it. And if you're with someone that drives you that crazy to where you're even thinking about putting your hand up, you need to leave that woman. It's not a good relationship. And there is no winning for the man in that situation. The laws in our society are set up to where you saw what happened to Tank, right? Immediately, the woman recanted the story. Look, I don't know what to believe, okay? But it's never good for the guy. You just don't do it. Walk away. Walk away. All right. Enough of that. Yeah, several of you guys think that Tank is going to do jail time. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. King KO says, Shakur Stevenson's a woman beater. The video's out there. Look, there is an issue with abusive men in combat sports. Look at the NFL and their track record on this. It's really bad. The difference with the NFL is they have a team of legal people and an entire media that's in bed with them that covers it all up. But every now and then it gets leaked. And what was it, Ray Rice? Despicable what he did. I think it was Ray Rice. And there's a million other NFL players I can name. We see this in MMA. We see this in wrestling. We see it in boxing. It's something with combat sports athletes. It tends to be an issue. But there's just zero justification. Zero. Thank you, Ruben, for the kind words. It says, wishing your mother a speedy recovery. Big hugs, brother. I appreciate that. And Brian Tate in the chat, BLT, says, well said, Mike. Never. Guys, that's it. Never. I don't want to see any of you saying, well, Dana White, Gervonta Davis, give him a break, Mike. No. You don't do it. You don't do it. Timmy Turner says, completely agree. Must leave the woman the moment you feel the urge to get physical in a negative way. Yes, that's simple. Here's the thing. Here's where it's fun being a guy. Me and one of my boys can argue, and we could get to the point where we punch each other in the fucking face. 10 minutes later, with a busted lip, we could be having a beer together laughing. That's kind of the fun of being a guy. It's also why guys die younger than women. Okay? But we can do that with each other. You can't do that with a female, guys. You can't. Walk away. And a lot of you out there need to stop simping for toxic piece of shit women. A lot of you need to stop doing that. All right, guys, that's it. On this note, wow, we took an interesting tangent. Fun 90 minutes. We'll get the phones fixed. All right. Appreciate you guys and all the kind words. I do hope things get better. I'll keep you posted. And much to come this year. I've decided I'm not going to talk about stuff until it's signed, sealed, delivered, and it's ready to go. So, because I just feel like I've promised you guys stuff that fell through. so many times. So there's stuff on the back burner that I have to announce. I'm excited about it, but I'm going to wait until it's officially official. All right, guys, have a good one, and we'll probably do it Friday, 50-50, maybe 60-40. We're definitely going to do it again next Monday. All right, guys, I'll see you at the fights. Love you guys. Peace.